My Lords, this is not the bill that enables us to leave the European Union. It is the bill that makes sure the law works when we do. Britain voted decisively to leave the EU in 2016. Both houses of Parliament then voted to leave the EU. Both main parties stood on a manifesto of leaving the EU in the general election, while the Liberal Democrats and the Scottish Nationalists, who stood on the opposite promise, lost votes and seats. And now the elected House of Commons has sent us a bill almost unamended. That does not mean we cannot scrutinise and amend it. But it does mean that trying to wreck it under the pretence of amending it is not acceptable. If, in this gilded crimson echo chamber of Remain, this neo-Jacobite holdout for the Euro king across the water, we were to indulge in wrecking this bill, then we won't stop Brexit, but we might hurt Britain. The public reaction would be rightly severe. In the part of the world where I come from, in Ashington, in Blyth, in Cramlington, they will say, and I paraphrase, "How dare that unelected panoply of panjandrums and pampered popinjays think they know better?" I look around this chamber, my Lords, and among those with genuine concerns about the bill, many of whom will have listened attentively to my noble friend the leader and her careful concessions on the SLSC and affirmative procedures, I also see people pretending to worry about democracy while trying to undermine it, pretending to want the best for the country while talking down Britain, people who refuse, unlike David Cameron, to admit that Brexit has turned out less badly than we first thought. That was a quote.
Hasn't happened yet. Hasn't happened yet.
That's what David Cameron said. Remember what the Treasury forecast in the event of a leave vote, and these were its exact words. A vote to leave would represent an immediate and profound shock to our economy. That shock would push our economy into a recession and lead to an increase in unemployment of around 500,000. GDP would be 3.6% smaller. Average real wages would be lower. Inflation higher. Sterling weaker. House prices would be hit. And public borrowing would rise compared with a vote to remain. And that was not its worst case scenario. Instead, we have falling unemployment, record employment, strong consumer confidence, robust GDP growth, higher real wages, modest inflation, stable house prices, booming inward investment, thriving tourism, a buoyant stock market, and even sterling is back above $1.40, not far off its pre-referendum level, more's the pity. A clean sweep of failed predictions, my Lord, and the Treasury, in the leaked documents we've seen today, has barely changed its models. In August 2016, the Bank of England forecast that exports in 2017 would be down by 0.5% despite the devaluation of sterling. In fact, they were up by 8.3% year on year. Here's just a few headlines from just this month alone. Exports put UK factories on their best run for 20 years. Freight volumes through the port of Dover have reached record levels for the 5th consecutive year. UK tech sector enjoys record investment in 2017 despite Brexit. UK services grow faster than forecast despite growing Brexit concern. British universities boast record number of international student admissions. For the first time ever, the UK has topped the Forbes annual survey of the best countries for business. And to those who say, well, things could have been even better, I reply, I'm amazed we've not slowed down more. Despite a dire dirge of doom from the diehards that people should be putting their heads between their legs and kissing their fundaments goodbye, the British consumers and producers just keep rolling along. Good for them. Lord O'Neill made the sensible point that Brexit is probably not the most important thing that is happening. If that's the worst Brexit will deliver, he said, then I wouldn't worry about it. Talk to businessmen and they are more concerned about the fourth industrial revolution, about the opportunities and threats it brings. Artificial intelligence, data processing, gene editing. I've just come from the inaugural meeting of the APBG on blockchain. We are facing a thrilling century in a vibrant world. We can face it from behind the protectionist tariff walls and harmonised regulatory veils of the EU, a place where sluggish legislation is shaped by £1.5 billion of crony capitalist lobbying a year. Or we can face it openly, adopting global standards and taking decisions that favour innovation rather than retard it. That doesn't mean deregulation. It means better regulation. And to get there, we need, as a simple exercise of democratic action, to pass this bill which neither gold plates nor waters down anything. To those who say the government is going to get too much executive power here or there in the undergrowth of this bill, I will listen to your arguments, and I have some sympathy with you, though I wonder why you often express so little concern at the way EU laws were imposed on us in the biggest Henry VIII power grab of all. But I do urge you to listen to what the government is saying in concession to these points. Now, some of the accusations of incoherence from this side of the House do, I admit, have force. But I have to say it's a bit rich to be lectured on incoherence by the Labour Party.